in the heart of a bustling international airport cafe, where travelers rushed past like waves against a shore. A quiet-looking waitress named Amina moved between tables with the calm grace of someone who had learned to hide storms behind her smile. She appeared ordinary, faded apron, tired eyes, hair tied back loosely, but anyone watching closely might have noticed the sharp way she observed people, the subtle way she absorbed every detail around her, as though silently collecting stories. That morning, a tall, impeccably tailored man entered the cafe, tossing his luggage down and taking a seat with the confidence of someone who owned half the city. His name was Daniel Hargrove, a self-made millionaire known for being brilliant in business, ruthless in negotiation, and charming only when he needed to be. He was in a hurry, irritated that his private jet had been delayed, irritated that the deal he had flown for depended on a document written in a language he didn't understand, and irritated that the cafe's Wi-Fi apparently refused to load the translation app he wanted. He tapped his fingers impatiently, muttering curses under his breath, when a group of elderly foreign travelers walked in, speaking quickly in a language he didn't recognize, soft, rolling vowels and clipped consonants. They approached Daniel with hope in their eyes, gesturing towards a folded letter in one man's trembling hands. Daniel blinked, confused, waving them away, frustrated that he couldn't help and worried that they would slow him down even more. That's when Amina, who had been silently clearing a nearby table, stepped forward calmly and said, "I can translate for $500. Daniel spun around in disbelief, eyes wide, eyebrows raised as if she had just offered to sell him the moon. $500 for one letter? He scoffed. What are you? Some kind of scammer? Her expression didn't change. This is a rare dialect, she said quietly, and they need help. If you want their message translated correctly and want them to stop blocking your table, my price is $500. Daniel laughed, the kind of laugh that echoed with arrogance, brushing her off with a wave of his hand. Yeah, right. I'll just use Google Translate once the Wi-Fi works. I'm not paying a waitress $500 for some fancy guessing. But then the old man who held the letter touched Daniel's arm gently, eyes full of urgency, repeating the same foreign phrase again and again until his voice trembled. The desperation in the man's eyes made Daniel hesitate for a moment, but only a moment. He sighed, annoyed, and shoved the letter towards Amina. Fine, he grumbled. If it'll get them out of here faster, let's hear this. Rare dialect. But no guarantees. I'm paying your ridiculous fee. Amina unfolded the letter carefully, as though handling something alive, her eyes scanning the text with growing seriousness. Her breath hitched, her fingers trembled slightly. Daniel's smirk faded. Well, he asked impatiently. She looked at the elderly man, then at Daniel, then at the letter again, as though trying to steady herself. This, she whispered, this isn't a regular message. It's a plea for help. Her voice lowered, heavy with something Daniel couldn't name yet. They're looking for someone who disappeared years ago, someone connected to a crime that was covered up. Daniel rolled his eyes. And what? You're telling me you magically know all that just from one piece of paper? But before she could continue, the old man suddenly grabbed Daniel's hand and said something in the same trembling language, this time with tears in his eyes. And Amina translated, slowly, carefully, each word landing like a blow. He said, "The man they're searching for, the man who took everything from them, is you." Daniel froze. The cafe noise faded. His heartbeat slammed against his ribs. What? He whispered. That's impossible. I've never even. But Amina wasn't finished. She turned the page over and held it up for him to see. There, drawn in shaky lines but unmistakably recognizable, was Daniel's face. The room seemed to tilt. Daniel stumbled back, his confidence crumbling like wet sand. Where did they get that? He demanded, but his voice came out smaller, weaker, uncertain. The elderly man said something else, and his voice cracked halfway through the sentence. Amina swallowed hard, translating slowly. He says you were there when the village burned. He says they lost their homes, their family, everything. And they say, you were the man who... But before she could finish, Daniel slammed his hand on the table. That's a lie, he shouted, but his voice shook. His mind raced through memories he had buried deep, memories from long before he was a millionaire, memories from a time he had sworn to forget. The travelers watched him with a mixture of fear, sorrow, and certainty. And Amina watched him with eyes that suddenly held something he had not expected recognition. It was then, in that echoing silence, that Daniel understood why she had asked for $500. Not because she wanted money, but because she already knew exactly what that letter contained. And she knew who he truly was. The cafe felt smaller now. as though the walls themselves leaned in to listen, as though the lights dimmed to expose truth. Daniel had spent years burying beneath wealth and success. He staggered back into his chair, his throat dry, his heart pounding with the weight of a past he wished had died long ago. Amina held the letter in both hands, her fingers steady despite the storm gathering behind her eyes, and as the elderly travelers watched Daniel with a mix of fear and hope, she began to speak again, this time not as a translator, but as someone who had carried a secret of her own. "This isn't just any dialect," she said quietly. "It's spoken in only 9 villages in the entire world. 9 villages that were destroyed during the raids 15 years ago." Daniel swallowed hard. "I had nothing to do with that," he insisted. But even he heard the lie in his voice. Amina's eyes softened not with pity, but with a strength that came from surviving something terrible. "They say there was an American man there," she continued. "A man who worked for a private security contractor, a man who followed orders he didn't believe in, a man who left in the middle of the night because he couldn't live with the guilt." Daniel looked away, jaw clenched, his chest tight enough to suffocate him. "I didn't burn anything," he whispered. "I wasn't the one who hurt them. I tried to stop it. I tried." His voice broke. The old man stepped forward, placing a hand on Daniel's shoulder, his eyes softer now, less accusing, more searching. Amina listened carefully as he spoke, then translated. "He says they know you didn't start the fire. They know you didn't order it. They know you tried to save the children. He says someone saw you carrying 2 of them away from the flames." Daniel stared in disbelief, blinking back emotions he had locked away for years. "Then why," he whispered, "why come after me?" The old man said something more, and this time Amina's voice trembled as she translated. "Because you never came back. You saved their children, but you disappeared. The village rebuilt, but they wanted to thank you. They spent years searching for you, hoping the world had not swallowed you whole." Daniel's breath caught painfully in his chest. He bowed his head, unable to hold their gaze. I thought they would blame me," he said hoarsely. "I thought they'd see me as part of the destruction. So I ran. I ran into money, into business, into anything that made me forget their screams." Tears slipped down the old man's face as he spoke again, this time reaching for Daniel's hand with the tenderness of a father finding a long-lost son. Amina's voice softened. "He says they do not blame you. They say you were a light in the darkness, and they have been looking for you for 15 years to tell you that." Daniel broke silently, violently, like a dam giving way as years of guilt washed over him. "So the $500, he whispered. Amina shook her head. "Not for me. For them, to help them reach the embassy, to help them finally close a chapter that has haunted them." Daniel pulled out his wallet with trembling hands and placed not $500 but $50,000 onto the table. The travelers gasped, hands flying to their mouths. Amina's eyes widened, her composure cracking for the first time. "Use this," he said quietly, "to rebuild, to support families, to fix whatever I failed to return for." The old man embraced Daniel unexpected, warm, forgiving, and Daniel finally allowed himself to breathe again. As the group prepared to leave, Amina stayed behind, watching him with a look he couldn't decipher, part admiration, part sorrow. "You speak their language," Daniel said softly. "How?" She gave a faint, bittersweet smile. "Because I'm from one of the 9 villages." Daniel's breath stopped. "Then why help me?" She held his gaze with a strength forged from pain. "Because you aren't the man who destroyed us. You're the man who saved 2 children. And the world should know the difference." She turned to leave, but he gently grabbed her wrist. "Amina, thank you." She nodded once, graceful, distant, powerful. Then she leaned closer and whispered, "If you want to honor what happened, use your wealth for something that matters. Build something that saves people, not numbers." And with that, she walked away as if carried by the past and lifted by the future. Daniel watched her go, a changed man, a humbled man, a man determined to make amends. And as he picked up the letter one last time, reading the foreign script with trembling hands, he whispered to himself, "Maybe this time I won't run.